Good evening, everyone. Welcome to you all. We're going to do the normal prayers, but tonight we're going to do the Manjushri prayers in Tibetan, as it is there, the phonetics. I will chant slowly, but if you got the meaning, is there for you to focus. Lama dai gombo jizu jambe yang la cha za lo kange lo de nye den da nye da nan da ra za che nye den ga che che ze che nye je do ga le ban ze kanda ze be tsara ma re ma do do nga je ze re ro zo gen la je dara ze la ro jo yan de zo ro dara je ro nyo mo nye la le je ja ro ze je ma re me ze de nga nyo gu che nye jen ze ra de nam de ne da je sa je da ra za yan de le zo ya se de wo gu che zha che da che nye jen zhe da le me zhen jan be yang la de zhen de je je jian ra wa ze je da le de mo men ba ra za ne ka da den je shon lo do ba ye le de ba be na wa ze do zo ma ba ze na de ma ba 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 Amara bana de mara 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 bana mara bana de 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 mara bana Amara bana de mara 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 Amara bana de mara 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 bana Amara bajana di 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 In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until I reach. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment reach. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment reach. By the merit of listening to this teaching, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separate from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings leave attachment, hatred, jewels, near ones afar by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separate from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings leave attachment, hatred, jewels, near ones afar by living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings leave attachment, hatred, jewels, near ones afar by living with equanimity. To the perfection of wisdom, the Blessed Mother, I pay homage. Thus I have heard at one time the Blessed One Bhagavan was dwelling in Rajgriha, Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of Sangha and a great assembly of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in Samadhi on the enumeration of phenomena called the profound illumination. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesvara, was contemplating the meaning of the profound perfection of wisdom. He saw the five aggregate also empty of inherent existence. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesvara: how should a son or daughter of good lineage train, who wishes to practice profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the Bodhisattva, the Mahasattva, Superior Avalokitesvara, said this to Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good lineage wishes to practice profound perfection of wisdom should view in this way. They should correctly view those five aggregate also as empty and inherent existence. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. Empty is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors, consciousness are empty. Shariputra, in the same way, all phenomena are merely empty, that is without characteristic. They are not created, they do not cease, they have no impurities. They are not devoid of impurity, they do not decrease and increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no tongue, no body, no mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste. No phenomena. There is no eye element, and so forth up to no mind element, up to the mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, no exhaustion of ignorance, no aging and death, no exhaustion of aging and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no cessation, no power, no exalted wisdom. No. Therefore, Shariputra, because Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they depend on, abide in the perfection of wisdom. Because their minds are without obstruction, they are without fear. Having completely passed beyond all error, they go to the completion ever. All the Buddhas abide in the three charms, having relied on the perfection of wisdom, become manifestly perfect. The state of unsurpassed, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom is the great mantra of great knowledge, unsurpassed mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly passes all suffering. Because in all falls, it should not be as the truth. Mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Dadyada Om Gade Gade Barangade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barangade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barangade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barangade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barangade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barangade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Barangade 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 Barazangade Bodhisattva Dadyada Gade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadadangade Parangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadadangade Parangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadadangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadadangade Parangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadadangade Parangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadadangade Parangade Parazangade Dadangade Barangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadangade Barangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadangade Barangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadangade Barangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadangade Barangade Parazangade Bodhisattva, Dadangade Parazangade Bodhisattva. Shariputra Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of in that way. Then rose on the Samadhi and said this Bodhisattva Mahasa Superior Avalokiteshvara, well done, well done, well done. One of good lineage is just so, one of good lineage like that. Profound perfection should be practiced just as you have taught it. Even Tathagatas will rejoice in this. Blessed one, having so spoken, Venerable Shariputra Bodhisattva Mahasattva Superior Avalokiteshvara. All those gathered there and those of gods and them, Gandharas were filled with admiration and praise the words of Blessed One. Just before we start the teaching, I'll do a repelling of this obstacle I've been asked to do. Those of you know roughly, you can join me. I'll do it in Tibetan. Dadam gadangada barangada barazangada bodhisattva, dadam gadangada barangada barazangada bodhisattva, dadam gadangada barangada barazangada, dadam gadangada barangada barazangada bodhisattva, namo lama jan zala sanjala jan zala jala jan zala gendila jan, imjima jiraji barada jimala jan zala janala jan zala dadane valaden zala jagedem betsin dadane rubaji, chidanga la yang bajeji imjima jiraji barada jimadan zong ila zong tsekadan jibe dadane valaden tangana, tangana Dhammarakshita Panjami Nime Chaudame Baba Kunjisum Kayadame Tadani Dujala Ndopara Juja Mabra Shivara Juja Namalamala Janzala Zanila Janzala Jala Janzala Ganila Jan Imjima Jiraji Parada Jimbala Janzala Janana Janzala Dudani Valadina Dajakidime Tsinda Rubaji Dangala Ambaji Imjima Jiraji Parada Jimadazam Ila Zan Tsekadan Jiva Dudani Valana Dankodan Jiva Dhammarakshita Panjami Nime Chaudame Baba Kunjisum Kayadame Tadani Duja Ndopara Juja Mabra Radha Jiva Juja Namalamala Janzala Zanila Janzala Jala Janzala Ganila Jan Imjima Jiraji Parada Jimbala Janzala Janana Janzala Dudani Valadan Dajakidime Tsinda Rubaji Dangala Ambaji Imjima Jiraji Parada Danzam Ila Zan Tsekadan Jiva Dudani Valadan Dijala Sobajan Doba Dejina Dagi Imjima Jiraji Parada Yazamila Zan Tsekadan Jiva Dudani Valadan Kodan Jiva Dam Gaji Panjami Nive Chosen Baba Kunjisum Kayadame Tadani Dujala Ndopara Juja Mabra Shivara Juja Radha Jiva Juja Ngere Danda Juja Jiva Dhamintine Bejadan Javadan De Panjuja Buzanzo Taji Dejan Dende Dela Yozobe Janja Jabala Jitan Nange Zawaya Parda Jiva Damje Nyavara Jiva Nzeduzo. If the teaching of discerning the way things are empowers oneself, of course the teaching itself becomes the very thing that treats the problem and stops the problem from arising. And so the effectiveness of the teaching is not so much how much we intellectually understand, but how we actually cognitively relate those teachings to our everyday experience, try to relate those teachings and how they are pointing us and helping us to improve our way of allaying suffering and their causes and therefore practice compassion to those who are not able to. So the idea of turning the wheel of sharp weapons is that the wheel of Dharma. There's no point of trying to bring any aggression towards oneself, because even the ego or demon, selfishness itself do not truly exist upon. You don't need to, unleash a weapon, let alone a destructive one, to destroy nothing. So that very wisdom that itself sees this is the sharp wisdom. So without the understanding of emptiness of ego, and then one is using all these things to summon everything to destroy this ego, so might look more dualistic than it need to be. So that's why Dharmarakshita's message has to be understood, not only on a relative level of how impeding ego is to our ability to benefit others or ourselves, but at the same time, the very ego, very selfishness itself really do not exist at all. Ultimately, we have to have, that is the sharp wheel of sharp weapons. Without that, of course, we are often dealing with more dualistically. So our reading continues from page 8. Alas, here Dharmarakshita laments to the kind of slowness in getting these teachings. The destroyer of the demon of self-cherishing view is the powerful one. So this here he uses the deity Yamantaka as the powerful one. Remember, deity is actually the Yamantaka is wrathful Manjushri. Manjushri is the wisdom discerning emptiness. So since emptiness may feel a little nihilistic, so therefore deity is evoked. The very powerful one refers to the perfection of wisdom. The very Heart Sutra that we've been reciting and chanting. If the right view that actually is very powerful one, then of course it will there's no difficulty dismantling the kind of composite of ego. We kind of destroyer of self-cherishing. Self-cherishing is only propped up by a number of props and things that is not itself. By the time you unscrew all the props, of course, then the learning how to unscrew them, and then seeing not a lack of inherent existence in any of the bits and pieces, including the joints, including the nut and bolts, or the handles, or whatever they are, then of course that is the one that is the very powerful one. The perfection wisdom is the powerful one. Perfection wisdom is here invoked as a deity Yamantaka, who possess blissful Dharmakaya. Blissful Dharmakaya. You have to, the blissful Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is not ferocious, angry, aggressive one. Dharmakaya is, Dharma means truth, Kaya means form. The form of truth is luminosity. It is blissful because it doesn't see anything that is not itself. So it's just you don't have to destroy emptiness with emptiness. So when you understand emptiness, then the one who realizes emptiness doesn't see something else to destroy out there. It's the problem, or is not realizing emptiness of self. Then it reflects something else existing out there. So therefore, one who is in that innate realization of the Dharmakaya is unperturbed by the paraphernalia of ego. there's a bit of pity on sentient beings who are still faltered by misleading themselves, thinking they are this and they are that. And here he says, who possessed a blissful Dharmaka, who wield a club, who not wield a club, who wield a club. This club refers to the very weapon, weapon. Of course, you have to, the Dharma, the scriptural Dharma is a club, so to speak. Scriptural Dharma. The realizational Dharma is, of course, no club. There's no one to club to. Weapon of no self-wisdom. Weapon of no self-wisdom. Always carry this knife, but you never find anyone to hit to. So all the Buddhist deities are really, really harmless. they may be holding a thunderbolt, they may be holding sword, they may be holding lasso. They have never got even when thieves comes in the temple, they completely let them take. Because they're not taking nothing, really. Ultimately, there's no taking at all. So, the weapon of no self-wisdom. Weapon of no self-wisdom is the club. The club is just in case one is clinging to the self as true, then one try to strike. But of course, as soon as one try to strike, there is no one to strike. To twirl it over your head 3 times without any hesitation. Yeah, twirling it 3 times. Yeah, twirling it 3 times. Means that as you because it is good to give this kind of threat to the ego if it doesn't realize its own selflessness, So even mantra utterance, hung hung hung, or twirling this club 3 times, or voicing harsh, wrathful sounding sound, or all this, we call fearlessness, grace, and peace. All of this expression might be there, but it is simply to subdue those who don't, who out of compassion to those who do not discern emptiness. It's only for the sake fierce compassion with the wisdom is only if you're showing the fearfulness in order to wake up those who do not wake up very easily. So twirling 3 times, or sounding the mantra 3 times, or giving the threat 3 times, and then is one way to wake beings, because beings have many different layers of suffering, of karma and afflictions and obscuration knowledge. Finally, they will wake up with great ferocity, obliterate this enemy. So this great confidence of the emptiness, great ferocity really means that the ferocity is the greatness of the compassion. So greatness of the compassion manifests as ferocity, and this enemy is the one who doesn't understand this. With the great wisdom, dismantle this false conception. So you have this. The outer method is ferocity to destroy the dualistic sentient beings who hold something as truly existing. But with the great wisdom, you actually dismantle the false conception as if there is something truly exists to destroy. There is nothing there to destroy. So that's good to know, So even if you fail, you wouldn't be disappointed. So there isn't the feeling that you actually destroy something out there truly existing. So with great compassion, see, this is all this great ferocity, great wisdom, great compassion. Rescue me from my misdeeds. Yeah, temporarily it needs to change, modify, transform ourselves. with the teaching, so that our own lingering behavior patterns that are still need to be corrected with this great compassion. So one doesn't dismiss saying everything's empty, but behave totally as carelessly. Still, one needs to moderate one's behavior with great compassion. Every single misdeeds, every single unskillfulness has a ramification to oneself and others who hasn't realized emptiness. So therefore, the ferocity and wisdom, however they great are, need to be moderated by the greatness of compassion to actually bring some relative transformation on the conventional reality. Please, once and for all, finish this ego. So whether you use great ferocity or great compassion or great wisdom, please help to actually dig out the true this ego that innately grasps as its truly existence. So I think if this kind of certitude, if one knows there is no truly existing ego, there's only an alleged ego, there's only an imputed ego, there's only a conventional one, there is only a relative one, there is only a dependent ego one, but there is no really truly existing ego. So, meaning that finish means, how do you know that your ego has been finished? That it doesn't have the same degree of attachment to things, no aversion to things, no fear of things. One sees futility in any attachment or any sense of upliftment, Even you did something very well, you don't think that's the end of the whole thing. You still see that, and don't get attached to even the opposite of the opposite, One moment you try to get rid of it, another moment you succeed to get rid of it, and then you don't get so exhilarated by doing that. Because if you do that, then one is going to be attached to the remedy, to the remedy, If one is attached to the remedy, the ego hasn't finished, So one shouldn't think there was a remedy that truly existed at all. Even the remedy doesn't truly exist. The remedy is only relative, relative to the comprehension of the problem. If the more you understand the problem, that much you are skillful to execute the remedy. It's two persons both have the remedy. One is applying very well, other is just have not done anything. So it doesn't show the true existence of remedy. Remedy is not a autonomous remedy. There's no autonomous remedy. There's no unitary remedy in the remedy. There is a dependently existing remedy. There is a temporarily existing remedy. Because if the remedy is permanent, it will continue to remedy. I don't know what. If it's permanent, it can't remedy nothing. It can't remedy nothing if it's permanent, isn't it? There wouldn't be a time when it's used or when it's no use because it's permanent, So if the bottle is open, then you can apply the ointment. But if you apply the ointment that just opened, but there's no boil anymore, and then you're going to apply on the wood or something. It's even in a relative level, there is no truly existing remedy. Because when one is get attached to the remedy, then one is also grasping the remedy as truly existing. So that's exactly what it's talking. Please, once and for all, finish this ego, And the ego, the transcending ego is actually that you don't have any afterthoughts after transcending. You didn't even tell I transcended ego. You wouldn't be there to tell. Tell whom I transcended ego. Gosh, that sounds very contradictory, doesn't it? It's like saying I realize emptiness. There can't be I or mine, my realization. No, I did it. So it is profound. It is deep. It is transcendental. Yeah. So here, Dharmarakshita is making us to look at the notion of the distraction of what do we call conventional ego, but not just conventional ego, but ultimately there is no ego itself, to destroy. Whatever suffering there are in this cyclic existence, so whatever physical or mental or temporal or ongoing suffering there are in this cyclic existence, pile it all decisively upon this self-cherishing. Because if all the suffering that one has is all caused by self-cherishing. Because if you think that is, then there is no truly existing suffering. Good thing about that is there's no truly existing suffering that is not caused by selfishness. Because the suffering is caused by selfishness, there's no truly existing suffering you have to destroy. And so that's why pile upon all the sufferings on top of this self-cherishing. Whatever 5 afflictive emotions I may have, so whatever desire, discontentment, and anger, and frustration, jealousy, and resentment, and miserliness, and ignorance, and that one may whatever of the 5 afflictive emotions I may have, because because I is the one, by virtue of thinking I, you have afflictions. So I and mine is an affliction, is the afflictions. One who has no affliction, there's very little room for I and mine, and so. Pile these afflictions, Of course, there is no afflictions. You don't have to pile at all. How can you pile nothing? Pile them decisively upon that has shared nature. All the defilements that they are mutually inclusive. Shared nature means they're all dependent. Because when you pile all the defilements on top of each other, then because they're only on top of each other. They may look something because itself hasn't got any leg to stand on. So even defilements that we try to destroy are themselves dependently arising. Defilement is not ego, or defilement itself is kind of a mental obscuration in believing in I. But the moment that one is able to reconstitute that, then when you try to pile all the defilements, there's no defilements, But when you don't want to have defilements, there's a lot of defilements. It looked like it, It looked like there was a lot of defilements. When you carry the bag and put them all in there and put in a bin, there's no defilements. So pile upon them, pile them all there, all together. Though I have recognized the root of all evil through critical reasoning and beyond any doubt. If I continue to let it, it's let it rather than abet it. Typing error. If I continue to let it and act in its defense, so meaning that any kind of affliction if I continue to let any of the defilements get in the way and acts in defense, then destroy this very person, the grasper himself. So in many ways, talking about the remedy and the problem, and then when you try to let the defilements be, let the defilements be, and even try to say, no, I'm not angry, you are angry, type of thing, act in its defense. Then you destroy this very person who is trying to own and defend the defilements. So, but if you're able to understand emptiness of the self, then the defilements wouldn't be there. Defilements defilements wouldn't be there to possess oneself. So the possessed and possessor are mutually inclusive. There is no possessor that is nothing to do with possessed. So because these possessed and possessor is dependent on each other, because if one try to destroy the possessor, then the possession become naturally destroyed. But of course, the one who does the destruction of the possessor, the destroyer of the possessor is the very wisdom discerning emptiness. So that's what they say. The sharp knife does not cut itself. Does not need to cut itself. So when you say destroy the possessor, there's no possessor to be destroyed, because the destroy itself is the remedy, and the remedy only exists when they are the affliction that are letting be. So that when this mental constitution is not allowed to continue, then you will not defend it. You will not defend. If you're not needing to defend your affliction, means you are able to. You're able to see the emptiness of afflictions. Right, what happened? My robe is falling down. Yes, everything's dependent. We were talking about that just then. Ear holds it together. Yes, so the mic is held on the ear. When the clip was on the robe, it's pulling down. That's okay, no problem. From now on, I will place all blames onto one source. So the blame in one source here is not so much that the one that is blamed to is independently truly existing. That's not the suggestion here. It's talking about this non-seeing. Non-seeing of this dependency is the one to lay blame to, and all beings I will contemplate their great kindness. And so when you have this ability to see the emptiness of self, then you can see the suffering of all sentient beings and all the good that their Lord sentient beings are always to you, no matter how aggressive they may look on you. But when you really are able to arrest the demon of self-cherishing, then you will not only take a responsibility of conquering the alleged ego, but at the same time you are able to contemplate the great kindness of all sentient beings. In the Lojong it says, to accept all the blames upon oneself and give credit to others. So therefore, if there is the self itself is destroyed, then it cannot practice kindness to others. So the whole idea of laying blame on oneself isn't saying I did everything by myself type of thing. It's just skillfully adopting the position that I am the doer of all harms. And so if I'm doer of all harms, I'm also the one who can also fix all of them. So if you practice, once you have accepted all the blames, then you are in a very fit situation to practice kindness to all. But otherwise, we are blaming them, so we don't have any thing to put to carry the virtue of being kind to others, because we are wasting most of time blaming others. So the moment we are able to have the fitness to accept our own responsibility. Our own responsibility is not inherently existing, by the way. Our own responsibility is dependently existing. Our own responsibility. If we took the blame on ourselves, we can only take what we are responsible for. And we are only responsible dependently. Responsibility is also dependently originated. You can't have a responsibility that is inherently existing. So you wouldn't do too much of harm when you know everything is dependently existing, you know. So even though say, oh, it's my fault, you can say that with great confidence, knowing that it's not entirely your fault. It's very healthy, you know, amazingly healthy. Because otherwise, it's like saying it's all my fault and then think really bad. And that isn't the teaching at all, you know. So therefore, we mustn't misunderstand. It's all your fault. The word all may suggest that. You know. It probably is able to see that the all only refers to those everything that you previously blame others. All those things you previously blame others is actually all your fault. So it's not all. It's just all that we have tendency to blame others is all your fault. Yeah, blaming others is our fault. There's no doubt about that. You know, we in hindsight realize, oh, I wish I didn't blame. So as soon as you do that, then your moral authority just lifts up to have the ability to practice kindness to the other, and instead of feeling hard done by them, because if what we do that is wrong is our responsibility, in relation to someone else, of course, you can never do wrong with yourself. So you can never make wrong with yourself. You know, if you're in the moon, you can never say it's wrong. There's no one to relate to who's wrong too. You know, if you're playing music and it's 2 a.m. in the moon or somewhere in the desert, it's not a mistake. You know. If you play music here, it's a mistake. Yeah, that's right. It's only a mistake, not because it is a mistake, because it is in relation to who with whom, near who, at what time you play the trumpet. See, it's amazingly kind of a liberating way to think and know this way. Not only as soon as we say it's all my fault, as soon as you do that, then you don't even go near somebody else's fault telling it's their fault. It's a complete waste of time. Complete waste of time, you know. And we know that they're incapable of recognizing that, as we mostly are too. But the moment we are able to recognize that, then we have sympathy and empathy to why they are not. They don't have the fortitude of the wisdom discerning emptiness to think like that, alas. And so you practice kindness. It is due to their aggression to me that actually, you know, that I'm really seeing how much they are suffering. As soon as I take responsibility myself as my fault, then I have the fitness to practice compassion to them, and then therefore I can contemplate on the virtue of theirs. Lord, sentient beings who may push me to the extreme limit, but it's only through having such Lord sentient beings who do this, then I have ability to have a chance to recognize the fault of selfishness. You know, Lord sentient beings are just me, just another me sentient being there, another me. It's no different than me. It's just too many like me. They're out there. So, so if the first person doesn't take responsibility, how many of the others can I assist them to take responsibility of? See, think globally, locally they call it. You know, so therefore I must start with myself. I will take on myself all that are not desired by others and dedicate my virtue's roots for the benefit of all beings. You see, you can never do all by yourself anyway, so you are not impeded and discouraged by that, you know. So it's very optimistic, you know. Well, the moment you say that, it just lifts the spirit of everybody else. And of course you know that, you know how interdependent it is. They also need someone to do that. Oh, thank you, they call it. Without needing them to say that to you. You don't need them to say that. And most sentient beings are faltering. They couldn't, very hardly anyone is there in a position to do that. So, If I am the leader, if I am the one who has made a promise to do that, let me do this. Whatever the others desire, that they don't want, I'll take. Whatever people don't want, I'll take it. Whatever people want, I'll give it. You see, this is a true will of sharp weapon. True will of sharp weapon, turning, destroying and pulverizing everything that is there. By my taking on all the misdeeds of the 3 doors of other beings under the sway of the 3 poisons. So this is just like by my taking means you can never take what is not yours. Okay, Buddha said, I cannot take your fault. So you don't have to be afraid, I might take too much. I might take too much fault of other people. There's no danger of that. It also karmically it doesn't go like that. So like a peacock that has colorful feathers because of poison, may the affliction be transformed into factors of enlightenment. You see, more afflictions, more undesirable you take on, now you have the gold transforming elixir. All base metal will transform into gold, like that, because all afflictions are not truly existing afflictions. Because all afflictions are not truly existing afflictions, they can be transformed. Yeah, they can be transformed into factors of enlightenment. So the analogy of the peacock we used at the very beginning is now highlighting even more. Because you can see most amazing heart surgeon, someone who is a very heart surgeon or something, or brain surgeon or something. They have to do many brain surgeries, many heart surgeries that are almost impossible to save the person, Having done that, his sexual knife and his tools and hands and that's nothing. If there is no heart, that is a problem. So the famous heart surgeon is because many people suffer from heart problem, not because he has some kind of heart like that in the middle of the sky. He creates these. So more tricky the problem, that much skill the heart surgeon can show how good a surgeon he is. Yeah, more afflicted the sentient beings around us are there, that much we have a greater chance to conquer the demon and allay the sufferings. So what is so impeding to us to have some unruly sentient beings? More the merrier. They say, I work overtime. That's right, overtime. The Bodhisattva never work overtime. They can't do enough. They can't do enough. Because sentient beings are so deserving, and a finite bodhisattvas can only touch so few only at one moment. So therefore, you're not discourageable by the misdeeds of sentient beings, whether it's physical, verbal, mental, all 3 doors, under the sway of 3 afflictions. So angry, someone so aggressive. The more aggressive they are, the better it is, Because then it's like the most severe heart problem you have, then you can prove that you are a heart surgeon. If others, the minor problems, they can go to some other GPs or some other places. It's like that. So, but even if you can cure the heart problem, person with heart problem or like a heart surgeon, it's because of the poison, because of the problems. Problems do not truly exist, nor does remedy exist truly. Only when the mutual inclusivity of a problem and the remedy proves that neither are unitarily existing. Both exist, both is medicine or poison or virus, depending to how they two can work, So this is very important, because even the problems, the bigger the problem, that much greater the result, If the problem is small, there's not much result, not much great result. So therefore, the result isn't truly existing result. There were no gain. They say no gain, no wisdom. That they say that not because there's no gaining or no wisdom, but there's no wisdom that inherently exists, exclusive to the, at the exclusion of the problem, There's no medicine. Oh, this is so good medicine. Oh, this is so good medicine. I mean, how can you prove if the medicine is not dispensed to the illness, disease? How can you say how great this medicine is? How great this medicine is? Like saying, "Oh, this is very good raincoat. This is very good raincoat. It's never been tested in rain." Only in the rain it might prove it's a raincoat. Otherwise, however much it is said, it's not rain. It is light, it is thin. You can describe all of that, but wait until you use it, until you use it. So therefore, there's no truly existing raincoat or remedy or medicine or factors of enlightenment. Factors of enlightenment are transformation of afflictions. So this is very important, that we do not see the affliction as inherently existing thing, and when you see affliction not inherently existing, then we are not intimidatable. We are not so impeded by them. Very, very good, because then you see this. Just question is how much skill you have in understanding of the lack of inherent existing, but nevertheless, relatively, you must be predisposed to have the ability to dispense the correct dose of medicine or remedy in order to transform the problem into solution. As I offer my roots of virtue to sentient beings, so now as a practitioner who has achieved some degree of accepting the blame and giving credit to sentient beings, and always, no matter what people does harmful or challenging to one, always see them as an excellent opportunity to transform them and remedy them with the remedy you have. If you don't have remedy, of course you have reason to escape and blame. But if you have the remedy, thank you. All the people who bring the problem, it's very good for you. It's good for you. The restaurant owners in our restaurant, if the hungry people don't come through the door, more hungry people there are, that much better. So you can't say our food is good unless hungry people come and eat them. So sentient beings with problems are the amazing benefactors of the practitioners of possibility to grow and benefit. When we have that, then we do not lament. Then we don't criticize. Then we don't talk that we are a victim. We don't say that. That's a wheel of sharp weapon. Destroy that already. Otherwise, we have tendency to blame others. Oh, they did this. He doesn't do this to me, and so on and so forth. But one who completely understands the workings of the law of cause and effect and dependent origination, he's ever grateful. If everybody is very nice to you and boosting your arrogance and importance and thinking you're great, is dangerous. That is actually the cause of all the sufferings. The kind of short-lived pleasure, and followed by many sufferings. So, as I offer my roots of virtue to sentient beings, so because you are now in a good that situation, every little virtues you have in accepting blame to others, accepting blame is, you can't accept blame unless someone blames you. So if their blaming is the cause of you accepting it, and if they don't blame, you can't accept it. So they are partly making it possible for you to actually turn it into virtue. Then the virtue that you have cultivated by that, then I will offer the virtue to them. I'll give the credit to them, like the crow that has consumed poison and is cured by its antidote. May I hold the lifeline of liberation of all sentient beings and swiftly attain Buddhahood of one gone to bliss. Until all who have been my parents and I have attained enlightenment in the Akanishta realm, as I wander through the 6 realms due to our karma, may we all hold each other in our hearts. And so now this is in each other in all our hearts, And we actually know that anyone who has heard and heeded to this teaching, they will do the same. And if they are doing that in their own best way, you got to believe that. You got to believe, even if they don't seem to be doing exactly what we like, you got to believe that they are also trying to do that. And the amazing thing is that your whole perception changes. You're not so vulnerable in thinking they are doing this to upset me. You said that they actually mean very well. When you start thinking like that, half the problems are solved. And then, of course, this kind of a positive outlook, because what they do to you is actually making you to have for some virtues. And so their blaming probably is not ill-intended, maybe. Maybe usually those people who blame us are loved one who loves us, one who really wish we grow, those who really want us to progress. The strangers never blame us. It's only those who really care for us, who really love for us. They are sharp-tongued. They are the one who is... So actually they really mean it very well. So therefore, if they say something, maybe there is a truth there. And when you're able to think like that, you're not so... You're not so negating of what point they may have to offer. You're not saying they're entirely correct. There's no danger of you saying that either. But the moment you're able to open up that way, it's already, the problem is now accommodated. Problem isn't rejected from both sides. One is accommodating, and then and they did the hard lifting. They did the blaming. You don't want to blame others, and they doing the blaming. If you blame, you are heaps of trouble. Yeah.
I think this is very achievable in everyday life, where you can negotiate with people. Just on a general social interaction. But when you look at situations like the Rohingya and Burma, those people just taking that kind of violence and attitude towards them is not applicable that I can see here. I don't think you can prevent that kind of genocide by just being pleasant.
There's no danger of being massive number of people doing that. That's exactly the problem. And sure, these are practice how individuals themselves learn to deal with their day-to-day challenges. Now, if we look at it, how something that is reported as a problem of Rohingya seems like of course there's probably none of those people, those who are exploiting the Rohingyas, have any understanding of this teaching themselves. So to assume that understanding this teaching and exploiting the other is wrong concept anyway. Those people may be thought as Buddhist, but they're not Buddhist. Full stop. They just happen to be living in a region that is supposed to have a Buddhist majority. But the actual teaching of this kind, those who comprehend and understand and propagate this teaching are not found in massive numbers. And even those people who try to defend their actions and so on, they're not defending because they're trying to be Buddhist. It's such a poverty-stricken country that has been ravaged by a tribal war of many multitude. We're only beginning to see now that there is a tension between the Rohingyas and others, but the whole country has been completely been destroyed the last 50 years. So we have no understanding what has been going on. There is no one who is living by the standard of United Nations of any human rights chapter. So therefore, we today to say just because world has awarded a Nobel Peace Prize to Aung San Suu Kyi and thinking that everyone in Burma should be living by the Buddhist principles is just high tall order. They don't have. If you really look at it, most of them are very blind faith culture Buddhist, if anything. And they are just fighting for their own survival. It's such an underdeveloped, such an exploited country. Maybe rich mineral resources, but only few of the warlords are the one. But the country itself is very poor. And even it has all this huge number of what they regard as intruders or foreigners that just came from the outside. For them, to have all these foreigners who just enter through their unblocked borders and taking over this space over the last 300-400 years, and then they realize they're starting to get some degree of order in the country, but yet their country is being troubled by this kind of a group of people, and then all of a sudden they wanted to. They both are causing this kind of harm to each other. So any kind of international or even communal problems, when we see it, there are very few people who will be heeding to this kind of teaching or even propagating this teaching. Probably no one is propagating these teachings because you have no idea the Nobel Peace Prize awarded to this Aung San Suu Kyi, who herself is just like is not quite the president. Still the military is actually one who really runs, and she probably is very much running the country only on outside the world we think that she runs. She herself been in house arrest all the last 20 years, and how much power she will have all of a sudden to make everything act according to the highest Buddhist principles. They just say Buddhist majority, but. You go to how each of those people live. They don't live like Buddhists. Even without harming each other, other people, other races or traditions, they're just doing some cultural beliefs that may look like Buddhist, but they haven't actually heard it. So therefore, this kind of a knowledge or practice is not widely propagated or understood, but still it's relevant for those who, in our individual situation, it is still a teaching. There is a lot of morale. There's a lot of wisdom in these teaching. Whether a person is adequately able to practice exactly by the letter is quite a different matter. Even by ourselves as individuals in each given situation, let alone very trouble-stricken countries and places. Yeah, so that is very sad. But probably what we're knowing these days is only big to us because we're starting to know. But before that, it was everything was happening behind curtains. isn't it? It's only now the country's open, and then the international maybe media is able to see, and then we are now beginning to, maybe this sort of thing happening all those years, maybe worse. The problem must have going on for a long time. It's only we begin to see, because now there's a little bit of opening, tourists are going, and media is traveling, and then now we begin to know this. Whether that is completely this version that we hear is mainly from journalists and outsiders complaining about the government not doing anything. And previously, if they ever got through, then maybe it's a completely different matter, you know. So those are very those are very, very, very complex. Because of that complexities, we need to see how realistically those suffering could be understood by the very people. I mean, if one of the group were to make peace with each other, it will work, you know. But I'm sure that there are attempts being made, but others exploiting that, you know. You know, they talk about, you know, the government complains about all these police stations were all attacked by the Rohingyas, and they have another version. So these things are just as complex as the suffering of that is. But these teachings are the highest kind of levels of way of looking at things, and if whether anybody who even understand these teachings is actually able to do it exactly as the teaching says, largely depends to their own growth and realization. Even in give you certain times in life, they will be able to think like this. They're in a good space. Other times, they just realize they're nowhere near that. However one believed and read in greed these teachings, you know, it becomes beyond anybody's ability. So that is quite obvious. During that period, even for the sake of only a single being, may I immerse myself in the lower realms, and without compromising the conduct of a great bodhisattva, may I relieve the suffering of lower realms. Now here, Dharmarakshita is offering prayers that if one's really diligence and altruism is very strong in such a difficult time, and then it's even if it for the sake of one single sentient being, you know, may I choose to take myself in the lower realms, and where the sufferings are unimaginable, you know. We're talking about unimaginable sufferings. And where instead of being compromising one's conduct of a bodhisattva, may I actually be able to take on the sufferings of others in the lower realms and relieve their sufferings. So this kind of optimism is because lack of the optimism is like a hard kind of trunk. If this kind of optimism there, I mean the wheel of Dharma, the wheel of the sharp weapons of Dharma is actually now pulverizing and cutting. So therefore one actually, even if such things happen, may I still relieve their sufferings. At that instance, may the guardians of the hells relate to me as their spiritual teacher, you know? And may their weapons turn into cascade of flowers, and free of harms, may peace and happiness prevail. So this is talking about how wondrous bodhisattvik attitudes who are given rise in the pit of suffering, how the very suffering just completely allays and removes, and then all the suffering becomes bliss. It's talking about the prayer in Shantideva's 10th chapter. Shantideva's 10th chapter is all about that, how praying that all those rivers of lava in which sentient beings are kind of burned and things, may they become, very cool pools and so on. So this is talking about how the very good aptitude or mind of the bodhisattva practitioner will able to, that even the guardians of hell beings treat me as a spiritual teacher, This meaning that, of course, the guardians of hell beings are not really truly existing out there. They're just a hallucinatory manifestation in the minds of those who have a lot of aggression in their mind. They manifest them. When one actually gives rise to the bodhicitic intention, then all those ferocious, threatening and hostile activities all transform into cascades of flowers. Like the Buddha himself, when attacked on the night before his attaining enlightenment by these very strong, ferocious weapons hurled by the demons, they all didn't land on his body as weapons, but actually suspended in beautiful floral arrangements. So these are talking about how positive mind transforms all the negative things. In many ways, it is. We're taking the blames of others, accepting the blames of others is rather like weapons to the ego. But to the egolessness, when one accepts them as a one to transform them into flowers. Most people will be pleased with the flowers. Others would not be pleased with the criticism. Maybe war of words, war of criticism, war of put downs and negativities. And so when one is able to wish kindness, wish them well, even if they're saying this towards oneself. Saying, my fitness to be able to even think of saying kind words to them, even if they're saying this itself is due to their sort of hardship to do that hard work. If they didn't do this, I would never be gifted to do this. So therefore, when you are able to do that, then that not only shows how merit is relative to non-merit, and virtue is only relative to non-virtue. There is no virtue itself as a virtue. If someone who has such virtuous predisposition, if somebody harms them or attacks them, instead of being attacked by them, he takes them as their sorrow and let their sorrow become exhausted by his having to take on suffering, that he or she, whatever blows they have to take, will actually powerful virtuousness of his predisposition is virtuous because it is facing a non-virtue. A virtue cannot act very virtuously in front of virtue, So it's only virtue is only virtue in the face of the non-virtue. Because of that, that one who they say, if someone who has enmity towards you, if you can wish them well and still have goodwill, that is goodwill. Goodwill is not just merely thinking goodwill when you're in a good mood, when there's no challenges, but when somebody actually harsh challenges you, there instead of retaliating, stone with stones or weapon with a weapon, then how would those weapons transformed into cascades of flowers? If it wasn't from the power of our mind, when our mind is able to see that, and free of harms and only peace. Because if one doesn't have any intent to retaliating, probably it's already a flower, It may land as rocks, but there will be flowers, and in fact, all those stones that fell on us have a reason, have a function this time. Previously, there's no benefit because those stones are quickly thrown back. Now at least those stone is not going to become stone again. So stone again, and yeah, you can see them as they're all around you, but you didn't throw even one stone back. Now they are running out of stone there. Yes, they're running out of stone there because all the stone they threw is all around you, and they are not transformed, becoming going to. You're not going to hurl them back. It's like that analogy. If you look at that, then the person may have been taken a few blows, and most of them usually misses. I'm told. When you are in such good mood, even if a person is throwing stone at you, but when you're really, really wishing them well, most of the stone wouldn't harm you in a bad way. Even if they does a direct hit on your head, it's a really good one, It wakes the ego. It is the wheel of sharp weapons, becoming the real teaching. And the good thing about that is, even though it bruised you, but you didn't even pick up that to hurl back. That is peace. That is transforming the weapons into flowers. Amazing grace. They will run out of the stones soon. They ran out of stones. On all the stones they threw, just thrown around you. And maybe you have a couple of bruises here and there, but we get bruised for nothing anyway. So maybe this is a good bruise. Bodhisattvas have actually lost their lives doing that. Not just like spectacle. They try to prove others how good he is. No, but there's a lot of people do that. Mothers do that. Fathers do that. Against all kind of obstacles, people do all sorts of nasty things to others, but they just accept it, wishing them well, and may all the suffering be allayed by this. May I not, return them with anger, and this obviously is caused by my own past anger, past wrongdoings. May this exhaust all our mutual sufferings. When you are in that state, that is the practice. That is the flower. The blood the stones may be still stained by blood, but they are flowers. We got a lot of blood, so some use should be good. And being able to suffer for good cause, suffer in us. Compassion is enduring suffering. Particularly suffering caused by others. We are often enduring suffering caused by ourselves for just nothing, Just for nothing we suffer. Usually things we suffer. We just brave through things, go in the jungle, carry 30 kilos of food and clothing in a bag, wear this big boot and walking up and down. when we wish to, we have a lot of endurance. And yes, we endure. We got leech bites and so on, but still no problem, So the practitioner should free of harm. There's no real harm. Real harm is ill will. Ill will causes all kinds of internal bleeding. It's invisible bleeding. Ill will causes more injuries than stones and weapons. Really. Those external injuries would quickly be healed by lack of ill will. That's exactly the wheel of sharp weapons. Is May the beings of the lower realms, too, obtain and become the holder of clairvoyance. May they attain human and celestial birth and cultivate altruistic mind. May they repay my kindness through spiritual practice. Realize that if we have been kind to others, it will never go wasted. It will make them one day to offer that benefit to others. You know, they don't have merit that is independently existing. The merit that they have, even through our tolerance, will have a ripple effect to others. One knows that, because that was one's intention. One's intention wasn't to impress somebody. One's intention wasn't to look good on the surface. One's intention is to benefit others as well. And it will benefit others. May they take me as the teacher and rely upon me. Then you really can be taken as a teacher, because you're doing exactly what the teaching says. You know, so that's that kind of teacher is very few. So he says, then if I do that, then they will really rely upon me. Then I'm really reliable. They will be reliable. They will really see a reliable teacher. Then I can really teach, because then I'm really doing what the teaching says. At this time too, may all beings of higher realms meditate thoroughly on no self, just like me, and without conceptually opposing existence pacification. May they meditate on their perfect equanimity. May they recognize their self-identity as perfect equanimity. So one is actually dedicating the merits to even those in the celestial realms, not become enticed by their not so perfect meditation of this kind of a contaminated clairvoyance, but may they actually then realize the highest meditation is no self. Highest meditation is really no self. And then therefore the equanimity they have, right now their equanimity is just weak worldly equanimity, not transcendental equanimity. You know, if I do this, you know, so the Dharmarakshita is talking. If I'm able to do this that I have written here, the enemy will be vanquished. So therefore, he says, then the enemy of selfishness and conceptual wrong views or obscuration knowledge will be vanquished, because now the subduability, the fact that you can subdue the enemy, is not because enemy become weak or like that. There is no real enemy truly existing there, because once you know what to do, it's the wrongdoing that is the enemy. You know, it's not the enemy that is enemy. It's the wrongdoing that is one's enemy. When the wrongdoing is slowly transformed and corrected in that way, then even the wrongdoing is proven to be lack of inherent existence, and therefore vanquishing. Vanquishing is there's no sign of any of the lingering habits of the enemy that is very, very self-sabotager. If I do this, false conception will be vanquished. Yeah, there's false conception of I and mine. You know, one wouldn't say I did it. You know, there wouldn't be I did it, because the I and mine has to be vanquished. I'll meditate on the non-conceptual wisdom of no self. This is, that's the man. That is the highest meditation, of course. But even calm abiding, or even chanting, or dharani, or deity yoga sadhana, is so that we actually are able to have this non-grasping to the ego. They're not grasping the ego as a self. In order to do that, we meditate on the emptiness, and then the deity. Then deity has one phase, or do this, and so we try to break the conceptual notion that I am this as a fixed, permanent, truly existing thing that doesn't change. In the sadhana, it indicates the exact opposite. You're changing from one moment you're a flower, another moment you're a syllable, another moment you have have eyes and hands, another moment you're healing, another moment you're taking the sufferings of others. When you do that, it is complete array and an activity of selflessness. So why would I not attain the cause and effects of Buddha's form body? So one is confident. Why would I not, therefore, take the Buddha's form body, means Rupakaya? Because even if you have vanquished your ego and realize enlightenment, why would I retire in the emptiness? Instead, I will take on the form of the bodhisattva to help come and help other beings who doesn't have this aptitude and understanding now. There's so few who can assimilate, who can disseminate this teaching due to the defiled nature of samsara and degenerate nature of samsara. There's so few bodhisattvas. So if I can realize this, of course, then it makes it a lot easier that I don't retire in the nirvana of cessation, but actually adopt the form and incognito as a bodhisattva, but to work with sentient being, not soiled by this fault of sentient being, not discouraged by the fault of sentient being. So that's why when one is a deluded sentient being, you will be mutually harmed, deluded. But when the bodhisattva who has reached certain level of realization, and then he or she adopt that identity, do not slip back from that identity, but even though he mingles and mixes with the sentient being, like the mud, the lotus growing in the mud, even though it grows in the mud, it is not soiled by it. And likewise, even though one is with the sentient being, and one's very purpose is to help sentient beings through the manifestation of direct Rupakaya, so form body. May I attend the cause and effects of cause and effect, meaning you have to create merit. You have to create a lot of meritorious factors. If one who do not accept blames now, if one who does accept blames and see them turn into flowers, he will be decorated with the Rupakaya body, with all the 112 marks of the Buddha. Exquisite that anybody who lay their eyes find joy, peace, and so on. Because the Rupakaya is the embodiment of accumulated causes, of meritorious causes of practicing blames and ridicules and accusations and harms directed to him, not as a tragedy, not as a problem, but as to transform them into all wholesome, meritorious practices. Rather like being able to recycle all the discarded things. He has a technology to transform all the discarded things, tins and bags and so on. Instead of throwing away, he transforms all of them. And so the bodhisattva has a very transformative ability, and therefore all of the harms and ridicules and the negativities, the blamings and others didn't let him fall down, but actually made him to grow, and then they become the cause of his great courage and real tolerance and giving and compassion and endurance, all these things, because he didn't fall with them, but he actually grew amidst the pile of the rubble, amidst the pile of the rubbish, and then so flower and all these things grow only with manure. They don't grow in just in clay. In clay hardly any flower grows. It needs various manures. You deliberately go and get cow manures and horse droppings, and all the droppings are actually necessary. All the things are more grow very well there when there's more manure. So it's just how one transforms all those things with great skill. Listen, all of this, but dependent origination. Wow. Yeah, amazing reminder. so that one doesn't think it's all my fault. All I did this. Look, now I can do. No, listen. All of this is but dependent origination. But dependent origination. Realization of dependent is devoid of self-subsistence. No matter how adequately we are predisposing in advancing these mental constituent practice, you might even feel very highly elated. But it's very important to remind, by the way, wait a minute, this is not truly existing. This true is dependent. Changing from hither to thither is deceptive and apparition, like a firing. They are illusions. Yeah, so the firing is if you have a little piece of incense burn, and then when you speedily spin it very fast in the dark, then it looks like a fire ring. Of course, there's no ring there. But actually, when you do this, it doesn't become a ring either. It's because of the darkness and speed and someone looking from there, and then it appears. So it's very deceptive. So it looks like that, but it's not. So therefore, don't think it's all you're doing. So therefore, everything is dependently originated. Deceptive means deceptive is only to the deluded. This deluded thinks there is a ring, but the deluded thing, there is a moon in the water. But when he reasons whether the moon can ever fit in the water, he knows, no, it can't be right. This is exact proof there is no moon in the water. So, therefore, dependent. The moon happens, the reflection of the moon happened to be in the water. And not because the moon's reflection is in the water, but because you happen to be looking at it, And so it depends on you whether you're looking or not. If you didn't look at, how do you prove there is a moon reflecting in the water even? Even reflection can't be seen because of the reflection. Reflection doesn't say, I'm here. It's a big sound of splash and then says, I'm in this one. No. Even reflection is the opinion of the people looking at it. The moon itself may be reflecting to 100 different places, a lake over here, pond over here, teacup here, and a beach over there, everywhere. How many the moon care to manifest? It's so everything is like an illusion. The illusionists, to the illusionists, illusion is not illusion. He's laughing at it. He's just playing with some few paraphernalia and looking at this dumbfounded audience. He's not impressed with himself. He's more interested how easy to fool people they are. So when one is able to understand, life is devoid of any essence. It's really important. Because we think that life's got to get these, have to have these, have to have these. If we don't get this, have this project, this got to have these. If it's meant to happen, have happened. Even if it did happen, all the things as you plan. What is the essence? Let go. Devoid of essence. If you don't let it go, even the essence is not becomes useless. It becomes cause of discord. Like a plantain tree, like a fog. It appears as it is here to stay. Things looks as they are there. You thought something would last long, but if when you looked at it, it didn't. It just vanished like a rainbow. So be that problem, be that success, be that challenges, be that fear, be that anxiety, see them all as a fog, all as a plantain tree that have nothing in them. It's straight, but inside is hollow. Likewise, it looks good to be able to do that, but they're inside. So don't get attached to them. Like a mirage, it is beautiful from distance. From the distance, it looks like there's water, but when you come to it, there's no trace of even one drop of water. Like a reflection in a mirror, it appears tangible and real. Like a cloud and mist, it looks thick. This butcher, the enemy, too, is just the same, So no matter what the difficult ego that we see, we discover in oneself, one should not see that as some truly existing thing, you know. So though ostensibly it appears to exist, it never does. So actually, the very thing that it appears, it only appears in relation to others, but actually it's that the ego, the self, and the self is mistakenly identified with body, the name, the color, the name, and the notions and concept. There is actually, one is mistaking I with the body, I with feelings, and I with achievements and failures and dreams and unfulfillment of it. But actually, they are, each of them are not I, it's something else. Even the something else itself is not in it. Even that something else itself is named after something else, and so on and so forth. So there isn't any truly existing thing that ever exists from its own side, or independently, or unitarily. Though seemingly real, nowhere is it really. So liberating being able to think that, but otherwise we become so stuck in our ways and views, as if something is existing, or is a problem, or is a big difficulty, or whatever. It actually, when you truly go and explore, it's quite different, you know. Quite different from what you thought it was. It's only when you're deceived by the perception, it looks exactly what you're thinking. But when you actually go and check it, it is no trace of it. It's complete opposite. Yeah.
There's impermanence within Buddhist philosophy, but are there endings?
It's no endings, no endings, because it cannot. If something ends, it doesn't become nothing. It becomes something else. It's like our food, you know. The food we eat doesn't end as food. It becomes some muscles and tissues, and then waste is excreted, you know. And then the waste is also not waste. It's become something useful, you know. Like all the tips, you know. All the tips. Now there's all the tips. There's a lot of business, you know. You know. Previously it was all people thought they were all. That's it. That's finished, you know. No, it's got some other reincarnation. It will become something else, you know. So it's so it's not that everything ends. So because if you talk about end, like I was interviewed by a Korean religious organization, the concept of end time. I said, this notion of end time is definitely not Buddhist. I said, and if you think of in terms of linear, you might say, you know, year 2016 end, you know, year 2016 end. But if it didn't have an endless in the year 2016, it wouldn't be never year 2017, you know. So we think the year 2016 ended, but it's only concept. We call it it started, but actually, you know, when the year 2016 ends here, others are still having year 2016, you know, for another 20 hours or so it's only conventions. The year itself doesn't end abruptly and simultaneously everywhere, you know. So it's only convention. What we think is a beginning or starting or finishing of something. It's just convention. So when someone's got a 5-year contract, you know, usually he's a 5-year contract, but then he's got another 5-year contract he's looking for, particularly towards the last of the 4th year. He's already planning for the next 5-year contract or 10-year contract. So that 5-year may seems like a ending, but it's just another cycle. One cycle finishes, another cycle begins. whether it's a cosmic time or seasonal time or even clock time. Nine, 9:15 is ending, but 9:30 is starting. so you can't have, if the 9:15 ended, then the 9:30 will never start. It has to start from 1 again. so it's like saying you can say, two street joining, one street goes and finish here as a maybe Johnson Street, and then it becomes I don't know, something else. It seems like that street ends there, but it became something else. The street itself doesn't say I want to continue. There must be some street namers in the government, in the name. Some people's job is just always deciding what to name the street and how long it is. Some streets so long. Some street long, but the name stops here, and then something else takes over. So that shows the little history, that it up to that it was. Then later on the town grew, and then they made a road continuous, and then new names given. So it's a convention. There's no truly existing street that is that. It doesn't start, particularly if you look at the Canberra itself, is only less than 150 years. Everything is just conventionally designated, So there's really no ending as such, because there's no beginning. In Buddhism, there's beginningless, beginningless. Because of the beginningless, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a cyclical beginning. Say the era of the Buddha Shakyamuni is said to be 5,000 years. But they're not saying that the era began when the Buddha was born. Of course, there was many kings before him too. So it's just the era of the Buddhist era. I don't think Buddhist era began when he was born. Buddhist era began after he got enlightened. Then posthumously they call from the day of his birth. So that's how beginning. They have to start conventionally somewhere, but that wasn't really the beginning of the eon or the era, because there was a year before that. Because his proof of that is his father. So these are all relative in relation to this. Okay, so we'll conclude here tonight. With the dedication of marriage. Thank you, everybody. We do this in Tibetan. Konya Gonda Bewa